we have come to a point where we can change the conversation to the latest, tragedy that has befallen Nigeria, the abduction of 100 of secondary school students in Katsina, the home state of President Muhammadu Buhari, critically while he's on vacation in that state, with all the security, appurtenances of the state. Analysts are saying that the abduction of yet another set of students, even at the time that well over 100 Chibok girls are still missing, may have put the spotlight squarely on the perceived failure of political leaders across the nations of Nigeria to protect them from danger. So joining us now from our Rise Abuja studio to have this conversation is Usman Yusuf, a professor of hematology, oncology, and bone marrow transplantation. Professor Yusuf is also a former executive secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme. And welcome to the program. It's a pleasure having you. I want you to make sense of all of this, all of this that is happening. I think Professor Wole Soyinka wrote out a statement and he captured it very, very, very strongly when he says it's a slap in our face. Our president is in a state and people are kidnapped and we have to start doing deals with them to be able to rescue our students, where we have a very strong security force across board. Are we missing something here?
Right. Thank you, Rufai, and thank you, Tundum, for having me here today.
Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us.
This moment, good morning. Thank you. So, like you said, Rufai, this is very tragic, and this is a very sad and sobering moment for all of us, not only in Katsina, all over the nation and all across the world. Any parent who has children. I did not sleep yesterday or the day before. And we will be trivializing it if we start saying it is slap in the face, it is this and that. Is it a failure of the government to protect us? Absolutely. Because that is the responsibility of the federal government, of the president in particular. Here we are, 6 years after Chibok, where 219 schoolgirls were abducted in Chibok, Borno State, and we still have 113 of those girls still unaccounted for. And 2 to 3 years after Dapchi in Yobe State, where we still have Leah Sharibu unaccounted for, what lessons have we learned? That now in Katsina, these bandits rode into a village, rode into the school, and carted away hundreds of children. Nobody can give you an exact number, but there are more children than there were during Chibok. Chibok was 219. Here we're talking about hundreds. The governor is saying 333 unaccounted. A kid that was there that escaped was saying they counted 520. Either way, that's a lot of our children carted away, just like cattle, into the forest. And what does that say about us as a people? The leadership is reflected of the people. What does it say of us as a people if we cannot protect our children to go to school? We cannot protect the most vulnerable amongst us. Who are they? Our children. Our women in our villages. They cannot sleep at home. They always sleep in the forest. Our women have been raped. These are the poor and the most vulnerable amongst us. Those that lined up and voted this president in. We cannot protect them. What does it say of us as a society? And this can happen anywhere in this country. Let no one deceive himself. Let no one deceive himself. This can happen anywhere in this country. These bandits can ride into any school or university and cut away people. For the last 3 days, I want you to imagine what these parents have been going through. For the last 6 years, I want you to imagine what the parents of Chibok girls have been going through. And for the last 2, 3 years, I want you to imagine what the parents of Leah Sharibu have been going through. What have we learned to have allowed this to happen again? Bandits are roaming the land and calling the shots. At a time when our president and commander-in-chief was arrived in his hometown, they dared him and took the fight to him and carted away hundreds of our children into the forest. This is very sobering. And we must not trivialize or politicize this. And the government needs to realize this is all for us. We are not government's enemy. We are Nigerians. And we must find a way to get these children back to their parents as soon as possible.
Indeed, Professor Yusuf.
This is not acceptable.
Professor Yusuf, what are your thoughts on the approaches that have been reported so far? The military approach, where it's been reported that the army knows exactly where the kidnappers or the bandits are, and this other report of what they call peace dialogues, that some kind of negotiation is underway with the bandits. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So if you ask anybody to tell you what's going on, if anybody says anything, he's lying. Nobody knows a thing. Because the federal government is not addressing us about what they're doing. It's only the governor that said these kidnappers have gotten in touch with them and there is negotiation. And this is very sensitive. Any parent in this world would not want the military to go in and cause carnage and the killing of their children. These children must be brought out safely by any means necessary. We don't know what the negotiations are, and government will not make it public, and nobody would suggest they do. Our priority, everybody's priority, is to get these children back to their parents as soon as possible. And then we'll start laying the blame and screaming at each other after the event. These are very sobering moments for all of us. What is important is to get these children back to their parents. There is a big danger. The big danger, the military goes in full-blown. They don't want to do that and kill our children. Neither do we want to encourage criminality by paying ransom. A balance needs to be struck. And our hope and prayer is that the government will strike a fine balance, get these children back, and get to the point at how did we get here? How did we get here? Because each time in this country, what I have seen is we're just doing the fire brigade approach. This thing happens, woo, we do it, and then it happens again. But there is nothing strategic to prevent this or to quash it for good. I don't see that. 6, 7 years after Chibok, we're having this thing again with twice the number of children with Chibok carted away into the forest. At least in Chibok, they were put into vans. These ones, they were carted into the forest, pushed like cattle. You remember we talked about forest rangers that have advocated for several months? If you have forest rangers, will these bandits roam the land in the forest? If we have community defense force, every community will defend itself. Now is the time for the government to listen to us and be strategic. It is our people, it is our community, it's not a Abuja plan that will work. We need forest rangers, we need them now. We need community defense force for every community to defend itself. These kids, in a country that has a standing armed forces, in a country that had a standing Nigerian police force, in a country that has several paramilitary forces, and a country that has full intelligence agencies, this country is terrorized by a band of ragtag, unschooled bandits carrying nothing but rusty AK-47 and machetes. They are not like Boko Haram that have RPGs or APCs. These are bandits that have nothing but rusty AK-47. This is a military that fought a civil war in a more difficult terrain against a more formidable foe. This is a military that fought in Liberia and Sierra Leone. This is a military that have acquitted itself in several peacekeeping missions all across the world. And here we are terrorized and defeated by a band of bandits. Not acceptable. It's time to say this is not acceptable. And we recommend that this federal government declare a state of emergency, security emergency in the north, and mobilize all resources, human and material, to this fight. How many bandits are there, for goodness sake? How many of them? Go to the village, they are ready to fight these bandits. Give them their AK-47, they will flush them out. We don't need tanks. Government has failed us. Government has failed the people. And it must re-strategize. And not this long English, we're going to re-engineer, re-strategize, redo this. This is, we need to declare a state of emergency security in the whole of the north. Create forest rangers and unleash them into the forest, and create community defense force in every community, supervised by 1 or 3 policemen, and arm these kids. In every village in this country, there are responsible elders, either in mosques, in churches, in their palaces, that will gather 50 responsible youths that would be armed to protect their villages. These bandits rode into Kankara on motorcycle with their lights off at 9 p.m. Did all their operation, carted these kids into the forest. There was no response from security agencies until the next morning. 4, 5, 6 hours wasted. There is cell phone. There are Air Force assets in Katsina. There are army. There is the army there. So, now is not the time to lay blame. The time will come. Now is the time for the federal government to get our kids back. To get our kids back. Our people have been very, very patient. And you need to see the face of the governor. The hopelessness.
Okay,
the pain.
Prof. Okay, Prof. A lot of people, using your words, a lot of people will even say declaration of state of emergency is long English too, using your words, because we've had state of emergency declared on many sectors in this country and nothing has changed. But we want holistic solutions.
Right.
We want solutions that are far-reaching. We've been in this war that we sort of like called a police action. That was an offshoot of the killing of Usman Yusuf many years ago in police custody for over 10 years now. This has been the longest, if I'm to say, insurrection. And quickly, it's fast even becoming one of the longest insurrections in any part of Africa. I'm not even sure the Lord Resistance Army has done more than 10 years. How can we have a lasting solution? Can we give ourselves a timeline? Because we heard somebody that was part of the private military companies yesterday on the show and was talking about how they achieved a lot. You know, they flushed out, they had milestones, you know. Can we say the same for government? Now, can we even give the military milestones and say, okay, before first quarter next year, we want to flush out Zambiza forest, flush out every possible Zambiza forest. Before first quarter next year, try to ensure that, you know, the Lagos-Kaduna Expressway corridor is cleared. People can travel there even 1 o'clock in the middle of the night and nothing will happen. Can we keep those? Because I've not heard all of them in this milestone. Even when you hear the theater commander speak, we did this execution and this. I want milestones so that can we say like it is a project like 2021 first quarter would have reduced this to the barest minimum because everybody wants solution.
Right, good. So you remember when the president came his first term, 2015, he gave the military 3 months and asked all the war commanders, all the service chiefs to move to the northeast, to Maiduguri, and they did. And there was an impressive difference in the 3 months. But it all fizzled. And that is what you get when people are in one place for too long. For too long. What state of emergency will do is allow government and state to do extraordinary things. And I'll give you an example of extraordinary things. During the governorship of former governor of Ogun State, Ibikule Amosu, he got waiver, he got end user certificate from the NSA, and imported 1,000 AK-47, 2 million rounds of bullets, 1,000 bulletproof vests, 13 armored personnel carrier, and 500 helmets. Governors should have this waiver to import AK-47s and rounds of ammunition and get the military to train their voice. These are extraordinary times that require extraordinary and strategic measures, not doing the same thing. This is what state of emergency will allow us. And forget the nicety of politics, forget the niceties of the law. We must quash this thing, if not, this thing will kill us all. Number one. Number two, we've said it. This insurgency has gone on for too long. 12 years is too long. And I said our Nigerian military has fought the Biafran Civil War, which was a more formidable foe in a more difficult terrain, which lasted 30 months. Here we are 12 years doing the same thing. And the Chief of Army Staff was quoted, I don't know rightly or wrongly, was quoted to have said this will linger on for 20 years. And Mr. Femi Adesina, the other day I saw him on TV some time ago, said, oh, even the Tamil Tigers in Sri Lanka, the war lasted for 26 years. Gentlemen, we're not ready to wait 26 years. We are ready to get this thing over tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And this government can do it.
Indeed. Prof,
we are not ready for this.
I wanted to ask you, based on
what this does.
Do carry on, Prof, carry on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, based on what you said about extraordinary...
Yeah.
From your point about extraordinary measures...
From,
we keep talking at the same time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Prof, carry on.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that when you hear this from senior military officers and senior government officers, really depressing. It tells us that the government has given up, that we are on our own. And we don't hear rebuttals from the government. Are you hear from the presidency saying, oh, it's only 10 children? Or they didn't get clearance to go to their farm? Everybody is talking on its own, and our people are being killed every day. Our people are on their own. Nigerians, we are not ready to wait for this long to get this thing over with. We are not. This banditry can be taken care of in no time. These are a band of ragtag, untrained, unschooled teenagers, mostly. We've seen when they get arrested, they're high on tramadol. They are not some fearsome force. They are the ones terrorizing a nation with the full armed forces and police force. Arm our people and let them do this job for themselves. Let them defend themselves. It is in the Constitution, the right to life. It's not negotiable. We must defend ourselves. We must provide, and I said it in the last paper I wrote, the government must mobilize and empower our people to defend themselves. The honest truth is that we don't have enough soldiers, we don't have enough army, we don't have enough policemen to do this for us. We need forest rangers to be unleashed into the forest.
Which is why these ragtag people, as you call them, are running rings around us. But I wanted to ask for your take on a comment that the governor of Katsina, Bello Masari, made. The Nigerian constitution does not recognize internal border control, but he made the point that 99% of bandits come into Katsina from Zamfara. Is there any truth to this claim? And when you talk about state of emergency and extraordinary measures, should we impose internal border control?
Right. So all these borders are artificial. Even the international borders between Niger and Katsina, they are artificial. So you want to, what is the border between Katsina and Zamfara? Or the border between Zamfara and Sokoto? The same people. These are all artificial borders. Yes, it's a forest that traverses Niger into Sokoto, into Zamfara, into Katsina, into Kaduna, into Niger. And this is where these bandits are living. And they were flushed out of Zamfara. Of course, they came to Katsina. And they are now in Niger, in the Kaduna State. Our people do not know peace, have not known peace for years. And we're talking about borders. Extraordinary measures need to be taken. That's why we need to declare a state of emergency and flush these bandits out of the forest. The army does not have enough boots on the ground. We should train forest rangers now and unleash them. These are ragtag bandits. We see them defeating a nation. Is not acceptable. It's honestly not acceptable. Not to us, shouldn't be to the government. And this is very bad press internationally to the nation. 6-7 years after Chibok, we are having another Chibok in Katsina, the home state of the president. When the president arrived on that day, they are taking the fight to the president. The president who was in the military, who in his 20s, wore the uniform of this country to fight for this country. And here you are. It's not acceptable. And I need to see all resources mobilized to bring these kids back. And all resources mobilized to bring our Chibok girls back. And all resources mobilized to bring Leah Sharibu back. And all resources put in place in the nation to mobilize all the nation. There are resources and human resources to stop this banditry and insurgency. 12 years of Boko Haram is too long. It's just too long. We need to be asking difficult questions. Why is it taking this long? This thing has never gotten better. Every day is getting worse. 6 years after Chibok, we're having another Chibok in Katsina. We haven't learned a thing. Our schools are not secure. We cannot send people cannot send their children to school. People cannot go to the farm. People cannot take their farm products to the markets. Women cannot sleep. And these are people that have never seen anything government, local, state, or federal. No water, no electricity, no hospitals, no nothing. We cannot even protect them to sleep in their huts or go to the farmland.
Oh, okay, Prof.
We cannot protect our most vulnerable.
Okay, Prof. A lot of arguments.
And we're here in Abuja. Go ahead.
Okay, Prof.
Go ahead, Rufai.
So sorry for that. A lot of arguments people are making is this. They're saying, yes, some people are looking at all, because it's so quick for us to look at other insurgencies all around the world. So some arguments have been, look at what happened in Colombia with FARC, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. They still went, they negotiated on the table. But a lot of people will tell you that we have even tried that approach with this so-called Boko Haram, with Operation Safe Corridor. But it's not worked. It looks as though that people that have gone through the so-called radicalization program and they are reintegrated into the society, they still end up going to join Boko Haram and it's still giving them back fighters. So aren't we just going to get to the point where we need to fight this head on once and for all? That's what a lot of people are arguing. And they're also saying this in the spirit of, yes, I know parents don't want a bloody scene. Maybe after, this round of negotiation and getting the students out, maybe this is the time we need to go full throttle on those people, because it's ruined society. We had statistics recently of investment in the north. Nobody can take foreign direct investment to Borno and other parts of the north because of the insecurity. Your reaction to this, Prof? Hello, Prof?
The luxury. We don't have the luxury of talking foreign investment. We are talking of people that are already poor, made poorer by these bandits and insurgents. They're having to sell their meager possessions, sell their cattle, sell their farmland, sell their houses, sell their farm products to pay taxes or to pay ransom. And here we are, I hear the federal government saying in 10 years we are going to get 100 million people out of poverty. Well, the reverse is true in the north. In 10 years, we will have put 100 million people back deeper into poverty. Our people are getting poorer. Our people are less secured. Our people are scared. Now, with the poor education in the north, schools are closing. So, poor education, poor financially, scared, terrorized, and yet we have the presidency, and yet we have all the security agencies. And we're talking foreign investment. We're talking getting 100 million people out of poverty. It's more putting 100 million people into poverty. So I want the government to do its policy with a human face. Interact with our people and know the sufferings of our people. Our first and only major problem now is insecurity. Our people are being killed every day, women raped, cattle rustled. Now our children cannot even go to school. They are carted away like cattle, hundreds, into the forest. And we cannot go across federal highways in the north. You can drive from Lagos to Ibadan, a federal highway. We cannot drive safely from Abuja to Kaduna, a federal highway. And we don't accept there's a problem. We must accept there is a huge problem in the north. The problem is insecurity. Declare a state of emergency and take extraordinary measures. Forget the legal niceties. Forget the political niceties. The lives of our people is more important than that and all of that. But our children need to be brought out safely. That is the most important. And then after that, we will blame whoever we need to blame. The soldiers need to be there. The service chiefs need to be in that forest. The NSA, we need to see him there. We don't need to see them in Kankara. Their visit is political. It's not theirs. It's the president who should be there, not the service chiefs, not the Minister of Defense. The service chief, Minister of Defense, NSA need to be in that forest and get our kids out safely.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Hello, Nigerians. We continue to pray for these parents, and we continue to pray for this nation. But we're in big trouble, and we must hold our governments accountable. Our government is failing us when it comes to security of our people.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. Very spirited one there, as always. Thank you so much for your time.